Hello, you too, Mr. Max here. Today, we'll be asking the question, what if every Pokemon region had a rock type gym leader? Now, the rock typing is honestly very similar to the bug type from my previous video, where even though there's a lot of really cool, really strong rock types, there aren't that many good rock specialists throughout the entire franchise. There is only one rock type Elite Four member, and outside of Gordy, who is only in Shield, the latest rock gym leader is the second gym, with the other three being the first gym. So I wouldn't be surprised if rock kind of in people's minds is overall viewed as the weaker type because the vast majority of the rock specialists are super early in the game. So today I thought it'd be cool to emphasize just how many good and cool rock types there are by creating new Pokemon gyms for every single region. So, starting with the criteria for how I develop these teams. First, the gym leader team and position will be chosen based on the rock Pokemon native to the region. So, I'll be zoning in specifically on the new rock types introduced in the region and just creating a specific gym in that region. A lot of videos like this will take the, four or five best Pokemon of any given type and say that's the eighth gym. You can work backwards from there. But I want to specifically make choices. There might be times when I do make multiple teams, but if that is the case, I'll say which one I like the best. But especially if I do make one that is the eighth gym, I'll also make one that is earlier in the region, just to keep myself creative and also just to help emphasize just, all the different rock types that do exist. I'll use the version of the region that I think has the most options, platinum for Sinnoh, black and white 2 for Unova, etc. I will not be reusing aces of any canon, rock type gym leaders, or Elite Four members unless necessary. This is just to keep myself creative. But on top of that, all other major trainers, all of their Pokemon are fair game. So in case of Kanto, for example, I will not be able to use Onyx on any of the teams I create for Kanto, because Onyx was the ace of Brock in that region. However, someone like Aerodactyl or Rhydon, since even though they were on other major trainers' teams, they would be fair game for gym leaders here. And a gym leader's overall strength will be based on the canon gym leaders of the region in question, if not slightly stronger. So I tried to keep the average base stat total similar to the positions of the region that I choose. Some might be a little stronger, some might be a slightly weaker. If they're a little weaker, I might add another Pokemon or two, especially if it's in Gen 5 or 6 where they only cap at three Pokemon. I will definitely add extra Pokemon, maybe make them a little stronger just to, because I feel those regions could benefit from a little more challenge. But I'll kind of go by case basis. All right, starting off with Kanto, and the first ever gym that you're introduced to in the entire franchise is a rock gym with Brock. And I think for that point in the story, that was a very good first gym. I really like it when gym leaders have Pokemon that the trainer, the player has no chance of ever even seeing up to that point. And especially in Red and Blue, when the junior trainer doesn't even use Geodude, both Geodude and Onix are completely foreign to new players. So you might not really be able to know how to really deal with it at that point, especially since the vast majority of the moves up to that point are either normal attacks or just other types that Rock typically resists. However, because Brock was determined to be the first gym and Onyx was his ace, they kind of had to neuter Onyx quite a bit. It's kind of a meme that his attack stat is worse than Caterpie's. So, it's something that I kind of wish they had buffed him a little bit. Yes, they did give them the evolution of Steelix, but I think both of them could benefit from at least a slight attack boost. But regardless, there are a lot of other good rock types in the region, so much so that I actually created two different teams for this region. One is just what I personally think would be the best rock gym in the region. And another one is one that I think if Game Freak had a do-over, I think this is the team they would actually make. So first, I think it actually would work well as the seventh gem with Golem, Omastar, Kabutops, and Aerodactyl. You could even throw Rhyhorn or even Rhydon on there and make it the eighth gem, but just something about Aerodactyl being the ace of the seventh gem, I think works very well. But if Game Freak were to go back and redo the region in its entirety, I honestly think they would do something more like this, where it would be the fourth gym with Rhyhorn, Ammonite, Kabuto, and Golem. Golem has similar, actually, I think a slightly higher base stat total than both Victory Bell and Vileplume, who would normally be in this spot here. But since um, I don't have two Pokemon in this fourth gym spot that are about that same base stat total. I think this trainer could get away with four Pokemon, Rhyhorn, Ammonite, Kabuto, and Golem, especially since a good grass type move could just mow through the entire team. But if you don't have any grass or even water types or anything that'd be, overly effective into this team, I think this could make for a pretty solid fourth gym. Now for Johto, Johto has a lot of just little weirdos. Like it's kind of one of the things that I think makes Johto so charming as a region because there's just a lot of just very charming, very not super strong, but like, they fill a certain niche in a Pokedex that I kind of enjoy. And Rock is very emblematic of that idea. Because we have Corsola, Shuckle, and Sudowoodo, who are all kind of weak, but I think very charming rock types. Even outside of rock, you have stuff like Smeargle and Dunsparce. Just there's just a lot of those like, yeah, like not like super strong, kind of gimmicky, charming little guys. And I think these three are very emblematic of that concept as a whole. And I really like this team a lot because, first of all, they all have different typings. I really like when a gym leader is able to have a variety of different types on their team. And because of that, Corsola isn't weak to water, Shuckle and isn't weak to grass. Actually, Shuckle isn't weak to fighting either. So I think this is just it's honestly pretty good defensively overall. Obviously, Shuckle wouldn't really be able to do much damage. I wouldn't feel good about giving it Power Trick this early, but it can still mess you up with stuff like Wrap. Um, and it could set up Sandstorm and just do a couple of those little things that are annoying, but it wouldn't really be able to hurt you. It would just kind of wear your team down a little bit. Same with Corsola. It doesn't really have that much output, but by the time you get to Sudowoodo, your team might be, just damaged enough where Sudowoodo, who is kind of deceptively bulky, could, could mess your team up in a pretty significant way. I also really like the idea that the player would have no chance of seeing any of these Pokemon yet. Corsola is found way later after you get the good rod. I think near Cianwood City. Could be wrong about that, but definitely well after this point. Shuckle is a gift Pokemon you get way later, also in Cianwood. And then Sudowoodo, the first time the player would ever see one is just after the third gym. So there's a good chance that you don't feel like fighting this gym yet. You go north of Goldenrod, past the Pokemon Park, and see that tree that you interact with, and it won't move. So you fight the gym. He has a Sudowoodo, and then after you fight him, he gives you the water pail to then get your own Sudowoodo. I just really like that storytelling there. Now for Hoenn, this is the first of the eighth gyms that I've created here with my Cargo, Solrock, Lunatone, Relicanth, and Aggron. I like my Cargo here because Wallace in this spot typically does have a Sea King, so I wanted there to be at least one Pokemon that wasn't a Gen 3 Pokemon. I don't love that Solrock and Lunatone both have the rock psychic typing, just so we could have, I'd like there to be more variety where possible. But one is more physical and one is more special. So I think because they fill different niches, I think that's fine. And then Aggron being one of my all-time favorite Pokemon, I couldn't make a rock video without having Aggron somewhere here. But because I did create one that is the eighth gym, I'm also making one that is earlier, spotlighting Relicanth as the ace, and then adding on the fossils, Anorith and Lileep. And for this team, I'm kind of headcanoning this being this trainer here who is the fossil maniac, who is usually found in a cave, right? And is like, yeah, in a cave just west of Fall Arbor Town. I like the idea that in this version of Hoenn I'm creating, he actually did meet his goal of finding these fossils and along the way also getting a relicanth. I think that would fit him very well. Now, on to Sinnoh. I think it works well as the fourth gym with Rhyhorn, Sudowoodo, and Probopass. Rhyhorn eventually evolves into a Gen 4 Pokemon. Sudowoodo evolves from a Gen 4 Pokemon. And then Probopass has a base set total very similar to Maylene's Lucario, who is the fourth gym leader in Platinum. No, yes, sorry, Platinum. um, also could technically be the fourth gem of Diamond and Pearl as well, depending on who you fight first. So I think Probopass, despite not really being able to hit super hard, it could still set up Sandstorm to boost its special defense in this generation. It could use Thunder Wave, still hit decently hard with stuff like Power Gem and Ancient Power, Flash Cannon, Thunderbolt, maybe even. But it's still, I think, its main its main goal is just to kind of sit there and just kind of wear your team down with this absolutely massive defensive stats. And I tried really hard not to make an eighth gym leader in Sinnoh this time. Almost every single one of these videos, I do end up making a Sinnoh gym leader that is the eighth gym, just because Sinnoh has just a lot of really good Pokemon in it. Most of them weren't really represented in any meaningful way in the actual region. So I tried not to, but there are four really good rock types that weren't aces technically of any gym leader in the main story. So here's the eighth gym with Probopass starting out, and then you have Rampardos and Bastiodon, and then Rhyperior as the ace. Now, this might technically be cheating a little bit because Rampardos actually, technically, no, it's not. I can't talk myself out of it because Cranidos is Rorik's ace as a gym leader. And then when you fight him as in the rematches, Tyranitar is his ace. So Rampardos isn't ever actually Rorik's ace. So it's very much fair game here. And Bastiodon and Rhyperior are both aces of trainers that aren't rock type specialists. So yeah, I this is one of those teams that I think it's not with both Probopass and Bastiodon. It's kind of funny how in Gen 4, Probopass and Bastiodon are functionally very similar Pokemon. They both just have incredibly high defensive stats, but they can't really hit very hard. And both obviously the same typing. So they both of them are just kind of there just to wear you down. So that way Rampardos and Rhyperior can come in and yes, they're also not both the fastest Pokemon, but you're probably not going to one-shot, especially Rhyperior, and then just, especially with Rhyperior's solid rock ability, even a good water move might not one-shot it. So I think this team synergizes overall very well, especially if either Probopass or Bastiodon is able to get up the Sandstorm that can boost everyone's special defense. Now for Unova, another one that would make a very good eighth gem with Crustle, Caracosta, Archeops, and Gigalith as the ace. I'm honestly surprised that Gigalith didn't really get much representation in the region. It's one of those Pokemon that just looks like boss material. I know there's at least one trainer in Victory Road that has one, but I feel it could even work like on a random champion team or on a rock specialist like this. I know Archeops and Caracosta are both used by in his fight, so it wouldn't really make sense for an Elite Four member or anything like that to have this or modified version of this team. But I don't know. I really feel like Gigalith should be on some major story team, but it's not. But I'm putting it here as the eighth gem, and I'm also giving it the Rock gem because I genuinely feel like if Game Freak had started the idea of doing battle gimmicks one gen earlier, they would have given every gym leader in Unova these type boosting gems. So the first time it uses rock slide or whatever rock move he has, it would be it would have his power increased. But I also create one that is the third gem using the Black and White 2 Pokedex with Onyx, Boldore, and Crustle also having that gem. And all of these are fun because this is a first generation that Sturdy now basically works as a focus sash, and all three of these Pokemon can have Sturdy. So it won't just take 3 turns minimum. It'll take at least 6 turns actually, assuming not using multi-hit attacks. So I think that's fun to emphasize the way this ability works now as a kind of early-ish gym leader. Yeah, I think if this were later, that Crustle could easily set up with Shell Smash and stuff. And I think if for the eighth gym, Crustle and or Carracosta could set up with Shell Smash. But for the third gym, I don't think they should do that. Maybe Rock Polish, but I think Shell Smash would be taken a little too far. But still, I wanted to highlight the new way that story works now. Moving over to Kalos, I made this the eighth gem because there's actually a lot of like at least 3 in the Mega Evolution, just really good rock types in this gen. Aurorus, Carbink, Mega Aerodactyl, and Tyrantrum. I wanted Aurorus to be the ace so badly. I just felt like she I feel like this character model that I picked here is the ace trainer from the female ace trainer from the regions. I feel like Aurora's fit her vibe very well. I don't always pick the team based on the little character model that I picked here, but I felt like Aurora's fit her vibe well. However, Tyrantrum is just such a far and away better Pokemon than Aurora's. Aurora's is just one of those ice types that they insist on being a slow, bulky ice type that just doesn't work with considering ice is one of the worst defensive typings, period, and rock doesn't help it at all. In fact, I'm pretty sure the only thing it does is give it is make fire neutral to it, but then it adds grass and water and ground and now a quad weakness to steel and fighting. So yeah, you have good HP and decent bulk, but you're so slow. You only have 99 special attack. So even if you are able to tank a hit, even with your refrigerate ability, a refrigerate hyper beam might take out one opponent, but then you're open to the next attack. And Hyper Voice with 99 special attack, there's a chance that won't one hit KO something. So I really don't know what they were thinking with Aurorus's stat spread. Whereas Tyrantrum has a really good stat spread. It's still decently bulky, but also has a very usable speed and very good attack. That just makes it a much better candidate for the ace of a gym leader in Kalos. And then obviously you throw on Mega Aerodactyl because I genuinely feel like every gym past the seventh gym, maybe even earlier, should have a Mega. And I felt like Tyranitar was too much, so Aerodactyl. Now for Alola. For this team, I technically kind of cheated a little bit. There is a Rock Elite Four member in this region. The Rock Kahuna, Olivia, eventually by the end of the game takes up the position of the Rock Elite Four member, and her ace is Midnight Lycanroc. However, because there are 3 different forms of Lycanroc, and that's definitely the most prominent rock type in the region, there's only kind of 2 other rock types introduced in the region, And I didn't really feel like either of them really worked as aces. I did make one that is the fourth gem with Alolan Graveler, Minior, and Dusk form Lycanroc. Obviously, this would have to be Ultra Sun and Moon since Dust form didn't exist with regular Sun and Moon, but I think that's fine. Like, like at one point, this team had Alolan Golem as the ace, but I always feel a little weird about having a regional variant as the ace unless it's like a regional form like a regional evolution like the Dunsparce or Obstagoon that kind of thing. So I just didn't feel right about Alolan Golem being the ace here, but I think Dusk form Lycanroc could work very well, especially since depending on like if I had my say, Duskform Lycanroc would be available to everybody who plays Ultra Sun and Moon. It wouldn't be this timed distribution event Rockruff like it is now. But it would still be more challenging to get. I think it would still be a like in-game timed event. So there's a pretty good chance that the player wouldn't know how to get Duskform Lycanroc. So this would be the first time they experience it. And the color menu doesn't really matter. I just picked the violet one just because. And then Graveler was really the only other new rock type introduced in this region. So you could easily argue that this is cheating having a Lycanroc as the ace because it is a different form with a very different stat spread from Midnight Lycanroc. If she used the midday one, who has a very similar stat spread to Dust form, I honestly kind of wish there was more difference between them, but Dust forms is significantly different from Midnight's, so I think this is fine. Now for Galar, the team I chose was Karkle, Crustle, Dreadnought, and Stonejourner for the fourth gym. Now, I understand that Dreadnought has a Gigantamax form. However, Stonejourner, I genuinely believe should have had one. I can just easily see in my head him becoming this big Stonehenge looking monstrosity. There was with that still with that goofy little face on it. Like it just makes so much sense to me that I'm saying in the version of this gym that I'm creating of in the region that I think this Stonejourner should Gigantamax. If you disagree with that and just say, oh, you should definitely exist more within the realm of the games themselves, I can completely understand. So you can put Dreadnought here as the ace, but I don't know. I genuinely don't want to have overlap of aces that are like I wouldn't want to have Dreadnought as the ace if possible, since that was the ace of an actual gym leader in this region. It can be on the team, but something about it being the ace of another gym leader makes me not want to put it as the ace here. Plus, I always thought that Stonejourner should have had a Gigantamax form anyway. Finally, we have Paldea. And for all the Paldean ones, I like to create at least three teams to represent the different ways that terrestrialization can be used. One, if it's a Pokemon of their type who tears into their type to make their moves even stronger. One who is one of their type that terrestrializes into a different type to either be defensively or offensively good into things that the type as a whole is usually weak either against or defensively help against. And lastly, to kind of mirror how they actually do it in the games, where it's a Pokemon not of their type, but it tears into their type to either kind of like more similarly to how Sudowoodo tears into a grass type, since it looks like a tree and quote unquote should have been a grass type, or people confuse it as a grass type, or something more strategic like Miss Magius, where it crystallizes into an electric type, but now technically doesn't have any weaknesses because of its levitate ability. So I usually create at least three teams. I actually created four teams this time, very similar to my psychic video. I was kind of between two different Pokemon that I thought would work very well as rock Pokemon. So I just went with both of them. So the first team here, where Terra is into a rock type, I think it works as the eighth gym. There's a lot of really good rock types in this region. We have Cloth, Garganacl, Colossal, and Glimmora. And this Glimmora tears into a rock type. Um, in this instance, I think it's very much fine that this Glimmora isn't in the first slot. It wouldn't have its toxic debris ability, it would have its other ability, which I believe is corrosion, which doesn't really, it doesn't like help the rock. It doesn't really like pair with the rock typing as a whole, but I think it was always a little weird when Gita's Glimmer would tear into a rock type and then at the very end of the battle start setting up toxic spikes. I don't think it should be doing that. I think it would get more use out of its other ability. So yeah, but the rest of the team, I think, could also very much help make this a very challenging eighth gym. Cloth with its anger shell ability, if you don't one-shot it and then bring it down below half, next turn would probably outspeed and do a lot more damage to you. Garganacl is a monster with its ability Purifying Salt, which makes it so that any ghost moves are halved against it for some reason. I don't really know why it does that, especially since it also has the ability where it also doesn't it isn't able to be statused. That seems like it's doing a lot, but it's what it has. And then Colossal, because I didn't use it in the Galar one, since Gordy already used Colossal. I want to throw one here too. But I also made one that is the seventh gem with Cloth Cleavor. I wanted to put Cleavor in here somewhere. Cleavor is available in the Indigo Disc DLC of Paldea, and I think in the version of this game that I'm creating, I'm kind of headcanon it as like a like kind of Ultra Sun and Moon-esque, like, or Black and White 2-esque, like sequel type game where stuff from the DLC can work or be transposed into gym leaders here. Midnight Lycanroc, just to have something that feels a slight step down from Colossal for the seventh gem, and then Garganacl, who would tear it into a ghost type. Like I mentioned before, its ability Purifying Salt functionally makes it that if it turned to a ghost type, it would only have one weakness when dark. Because Ghost, yes, it would still say it's super effective, but it would take less damage from those super effective moves. So really only a good dark move would be able to is the only thing that could really do much damage to it. And then you can't even poison or burn it because it's because its ability prohibits that. So it's kind of the thing where I maybe even think that just Garganacl, however you pronounce it, being ghost type, even with the rest of the team I gave it, I could hear an argument for this being eighth gym material. So maybe I could easily hear an argument for switching out Cleavor for something weaker, like even like Pseudo Wudo or Stonejourner or something even weaker than that. But I don't know. I wanted Cleavor to be somewhere in this presentation just because it's a very cool Pokemon, and this I thought was the best place for it. And now for the two teams that have a Pokemon who is not rock type that tears into a rock type. The first one is the fifth gym with Cloth, Knacklestack, Stonejourner, and Grumpig, who tears into a rock type. Grumpig has those gems on his body. It's always been able to, as long as the move existed, it's always been able to use Power Gem. I just think that could work very well. Not to mention, uh, a major weakness of the rock typing is fighting. So if you bring a bunch of fighting types into this team, Grumpig can be sent out, tear it into a rock type, but then still be able to hit pretty hard with psychic moves. Then lastly, one that is the third gym with Cloth, Knacklestack, Sudowoodo, and Persian, who tears into a rock type. Very similar design philosophy to Grumpig turning into a rock type. It has that gem on its head. It's able to learn Power Gem. Ideally, if I had access to it, I would have used the Alolan variant since it has slightly higher special attack and would just better be able to use that better be able to use Power Gem. But I think both could work very well. I think if I did go with the Alolan version, it would have its fur coat ability, making opposing fighting moves technically less effective because your your resilience to physical attacks would go up. Whereas Persian, I would this Persian here, I would definitely give it its technician ability, making those power gems that are all sorry, never mind. Sorry, no, sorry. Sorry. I was thinking it did 60 damage, it's 80. Okay, so regardless, either way, they would use nasty plot to then even at a third gem. I don't think using nasty plot would be too crazy. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know down below what you thought about any of these teams. Are there any rock types you feel I forgot? Any that should have been aces that were just on the team or left out completely? Any aces that you disagree with? Um, just any choices throughout that you would do differently. Please let me know down below. I would like to have a discussion about that. I intend on making a video for every single type in this series, and I'm honestly getting kind of close to the end here. So, I want to continue, continue producing, continue improving this series. So, yeah, any thoughts, concerns, criticism, just ideas you have, any ideas for future videos down the line you have, please let me know. And with that, we will see you all next time.